invitees, ladies and gentlemen, and of course, a very special audience of the young minds who are present here today. Very good morning to you all. This morning, we start with the Day 3 of DevSat Conference and Expo 2023 here at Manekshaw Center. We start with the opening plenary. In this opening plenary, we will have Dr. Subbarao Pavuluri, President SIA-India, and Chairman Ananth Technologies Limited with us on the days. Also, we will have a special address by Dr. Anupam Sharma, Associate Director DSP DRDO, and Dr. Ranjana N, Director DSTA DRDO. May I request them all to please join us on the stage. A warm welcome to the honorable dignitaries who have now taken their seats on the dais. It gives me great pleasure to invite Dr. Subbarao to kindly deliver the welcome address. Please put your hands together and give a warm welcome.
Namaskar and good morning to all of you. Today we entered into the third day of our seminar, and in fact the response for the last couple of days has been overwhelming, and I'm sure today also till evening every participant I'm sure will participate very effectively as being done last 2 days. And again I welcome all of you for today's program. Interestingly, today we have two, I must say, giants from DRDO, these are governmental organizations, who have been working on the space program for so many years. So it will be interesting for us to know what's happening within their realm of activities and what they expect to be industry to do in future. And interestingly, just for those who are not present here yesterday, day before by any chance, in the first day session, we started with General Kandhareji and General Ponnum with a kind of a war game. This was something very interesting for the industry also. They posed certain problems on the military requirement side, and they wanted the industry to react. And we found that there's a lot of synergy that industry can do while working with the defense side. And similarly, yesterday we had very good sessions wherein the policies, initiatives from the Government of India, from the military side, and what the industry has expected to be done, and what's going to be a scenario for the future for the space industry in this country from the defense point of view. In fact, that is so overwhelming. In fact, most of the time we have been thinking that all along that there's more demand for the space sector in the civilian applications, but it is a realization to all of us, in fact, including to me, that there is more business in the military space than the civilian, since the military has completely opened up to the private sector today. So it is for the industry now to come forward and seize the opportunity. I'm sure this is going to take a little more time, but definitely there's a big business as we emphasize into this regard. Now today our expectation is we have Dr. Anupam Sharma, who had the immense experience in DLRL, in making these subsystems earlier, and now he is now managing a complete program for the defense in the DRDO side. So we expect him to give us an overview as what is going to be a scenario from their side and what is their expectation of industry. And hopefully he'll cover all those things that is required in this regard. And similarly, Dr. Ranjana Kaur. Dr. Ranjana has been, of course, both of them are good friends of mine for long years. She has been working in the software sector, in the software area, but every software that's gone into the systems in DRDO for all missiles related activities, everything went through her in the sense that she is expert in terms of ensuring that nobody can tap into that software kind of thing into it. So therefore, She has enormous experience, and of course, now she's also working in the space-related activities, cyber-related activities. I would expect her to give us an overview about what is the expectation in the space sector and what she expects from industry. Thank you. We look forward. Dr. Anupam, maybe we can begin with that.
Good morning, Subbarao sir, for introducing me. Janar Khandare, dignitaries on the dais, delegates. From the perspective of DSP, I am from DSP, which is a counterpart of DSA, which has got the mandate to operationalize the systems and subsystems for space. We have got the mandate to design, develop, and deliver it to the DSA. So in another 10 minutes of time, very briefly, I would just like to highlight that in the present scenario, what are the military requirements which are going to come and how we expect them to be supported through industry. As Subbarao sir brought out that there is so much requirement that the civil requirements which are there, which has become part of the military. That means we are talking about dual use technology. But if you look at US, I understand 40% of the ISR requirements is met just by the private players. I have seen that talk about hyperspectral, panchromatic image, you talk about synthetic aperture radar, you talk about ELINT, there are private players. They are having systems, and then the intelligence is being shared with the government agency. We don't have such system. Now let me begin my address that if you look at the total scenario, the space, military space is diverse, it is disruptive, it's disordered, congested and also contested. That's why we say that any power who can rule the space can also rule the entire world. Let me begin. The topic of military space is diverse. As on today, if you see that earlier we used to think space in terms of Russia and America, but today we have got 29 countries who are developing satellites to meet military requirements. So time has gone when we used to target space in terms of US and Russia. There are 29 countries, including India, which is playing a very active role in it. So we have got 5,465 satellites, out of which 65 are from US. There are 29 countries, out of which if you see US, Russia and China, they have got 100 to 250 military satellites. I am not talking the satellites which are being used for the dual purpose. And these satellites are being used for various purposes, starting imagery for panchromatic, hyperspectral, SAR, platform tracking, very important thing, such as aircraft tracking using ADS Bravo, ship tracking using AIS system. Of course, missile is one of the platform, and the space is being effectively used to track the ballistic, and future requirement is going to come for tracking the cruise and also hypersonic missile, which is going to be a very big challenge when it comes to the communication among the satellites, and also when we talk about the other aspect of the space warfare, where you require a lot of spoofing and jamming activity, because you know that hypersonic missile cannot be attacked through kinetics You have to do something more to it. Then we have got PNT. Everybody knows the requirement of the PNT. I don't want to dwell on it. You have got metrology. See, this is the area which is not touched. But I want to tell you, future SSA space situation awareness requires a metrology element to be built in for the military. Otherwise, in some of the cases, your ISR, your missile launch is going to be ineffective if the space is not supporting a proper weather. The communication, command and control. And also, there is some new technologies coming up. The submarine also can be tracked from space using blue laser, using IR detectors. When there is a nuclear power submarine, the surface temperature of the sea is going to change, and that IR detectors can be used to do it. We can measure hull and so on. Now, coming back to the next point is, as Subbarao sir brought out, there is a radical change in the way we used to look the space for military. I remember 1991, when Gulf War was there. That time, military used to provide technology to the civil domain. And now there is a total thing in Russia-Ukraine war. When you see that when Russians disabled the communication systems of the Ukrainians were dependent on the technology provided by Elon Musk. And it was found that the jamming and the spoofing of the technology was much more difficult. And presently, the kind of innovations which in civil domain it is happening, I am finding that a lot of application the civil domain can come into the military domain. That is where the role of startups and industry is becoming very important. Somewhere I am not happy, or we should not be happy, that space has become disordered. Nobody follows the treaty. There are a lot of gaps because the countries are not united. There is going to be an issue of interference when bandwidth of the satellites are being used and it is not coordinated properly by the ITU. Space is very dangerous. In future, you are going to have the ASAT mines, the co-orbital warfare, DEW, direct energy weapons, using laser, high power laser, which can be used for dazzling or giving a permanent damage to the satellite, and also the high power microwave weapons. But let me tell you, there is one more technology is going to come, and that is the particle beam. These particle beams can do much more damage to the satellites than laser or high power microwave. The research is going on, and it is said that this technology is going to become matured in another 10 years of time. We should not wait for that 10 years to come. We must start working on these technologies together. Presently, if you look at Indian scenario, you have got satellites in 2 digits. We are competing with the world. We are using Cartosat, GSAT, IRNSS, and also synthetic aperture radar, which are limited in number. If this number has to be multiplied, this cannot be managed without the help of the industry. I want to tell you that if we want to have a competition with the other space powers, you require large numbers of constellations working together on the principles of disaggregation. That means the constellation will play a multiple role altogether. No single point failure of one satellite is acceptable, and then it is also going to be that in case few satellites of one constellation fail, the role can be played by other constellations. So it is going to be, constellations are going to be disaggregated, distributed, and also diversified. And if this is to be done, the cost of the constellations, because satellites are likely to be attacked, has to be brought down. We have seen, as per the DRDO, that many commercial components can still be used in the space. So you require, and now we are having a reusable launch vehicle concept with us, where the launch costs are going to be reduced. Space domain awareness is one of the military domain. In terms of military, I'm not talking about civil space domain. If your satellite is going to be attacked, you require a position, precise position of the adversary satellite in order it has to be attacked. We have estimated the cost of space situation awareness is around 50,000 crore rupees. That's much business industry is going to get once this gets sanctioned. Antenna nulling and adapting filtering technology to overcome the effect of EW and jamming is going to be a key factor when we design the satellite. The satellites are going to be secured through quantum key distribution by application of the quantum communication. So I suggest many students can take up this field, because in future if you don't work on quantum communication, the quantum technology, we are going to be outdated. We have to protect our satellites. The visibility of the satellite antenna gives the application, so you require a lot of stealth mechanism. You require many decoys along with your actual satellites, so that there is a confusion in the mind of adversary that attack which satellite. You require precision point maneuverability with high G thrusters and large delta velocity thrusters for co-orbital maneuvers. The launch on demand in space and also on ground. When I talk for space, a bundle of satellites can be there in the space. Some of the satellites can also have the ASAT with them, and when it requires, it can be ejected into the orbit. The IRNS is going to be the priority. X zettabyte of data we are going to get from space. It is not possible to churn it on the ground, so it requires to be based on AI, ML, and deep learning algorithm, where DRDO is already working. Satellite-based relays to reduce the delay in propagation when the satellite is not above India are going to play very much priority. Reusable launch vehicles to reduce the cost of the satellite is the other thing. As on today, as far as 10 to 12 countries have developed lasers which can go up to 100 megawatt, but the target is going to be 1 gigawatt. In the similar case, high power microwave, it can go up to presently 100 megawatt. The target is going to be 1 gigawatt. The technology have to get mature to work in the space domain, which other countries have done. I will not refer to the internet literature. Now, coming back to the most important point, which Subbarao sir said, if you have to compete and we have to launch large number of constellations, the satellites and their coordination, it cannot be done by DRDO. It has to be done by the industry. There are two segments in this, upstream segment and downstream segment. And in the area of satellite manufacturing, which I bring under upstream segment, it's very encouraging that Ananth technology is already working on it. But, and also the target is that by 2025, as per the satellite manufacturing, we should have 3.2 billion US dollar. We must increase it further. Probably the defense requirements, if it is taken, it is not going to be 3.2 billion US billion dollars. We must communicate to the industry how many numbers we require in future. Launch services, Skyroot, also Bellatrix, having electric propulsion system. They are working on it, and it is expected that by 2025, the investment of $1 billion US will be there. But I want to tell you very important that electric thruster are going to play very important role when you launch them in 150-kilometer orbit, because this satellite will have infinite life. It will survive on oxygen, and when the demand arises, you can change the orbit and you can do orbital maneuver. So it's going to be a very promising technology. The another downstream segment where I categorize ground stations realizations and satellite services all together, it is expected it's going to have a target of $9 billion US. But if the defense requirements are communicated to the industry, it is going to multiply by 10 times. We must use this forum. We must do together sitting brainstorming with the MOD that how to convey this requirement formally to the industry so that they can cater this in this much of infrastructure to meet country's requirement. I was very much happy when I found that there are more than 100 startups which are working for space technology, and 368 space tech companies are working in some or the other way. But it is said that if you want to become rich, compete with the rich people. Look at US. They have 5,582 space tech companies. That's why they control 65% of the satellites. Keeping this I request a synergy among the academia, users, DRDO, industry to meet the challenges I have addressed in my address. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amma.
So, I think good morning everyone. General Khandare, General Arora, Subbarao Garu, AVM Ranjan, and all my colleagues and industry partners. Very good morning to all of you. And I am told that a lot has been discussed for last 2 days. And the speaker prior to me, Anupam, has already covered the spectrum of technologies that are required or the future that we are looking at in the space segment. The thing here is, when Dr. Subbarao was talking about the software that I have worked with, not in the headquarters, but yes, I will tell you, when you have to make things work, it's very little of intelligence and a lot of it is donkey's job, which is hours and hours and hours of work before you can ensure that things work the way you intend them to. And it's not easy. I will just start with, erstwhile, 20 years back when we started programming, 30 years back, C programming, waterfall model of process development. And slowly, and there were a lot of standards which were, MIL standard 498, then 2167A, and then comes the IEEE standard, which is not a standard, it's kind of a guideline. It's a framework. There is no thing that you have to comply with, there's no rule to comply with. And then came the agile programming. And then you get lost that how do you ensure in agile programming in the military setup? And military setup is far more stringent, and the places where the human lives are at stake, where the multi-crore business is at stake, how do you become agile? So it's a contradictory development of technologies which were happening in those areas. And we decided that yes, agile is the way to go, but definitely agile with a little bit of waterfall way of thinking. Because you can't take chances with the costly projects or the products that you are making and going to launch in the system, which has to serve its purpose in the maybe 10 years, 15 years of lifetime. In certain cases is 20 years, where the missiles where I worked for. And it is tough. So making a software for a web-based system in an agile methodology, well, fine. If small bug is there, it's corrected, feedback is given. But what do you do when the Mars climate orbiter, while landing on the Mars, burnt out? It was a software bug where the two teams which were developing the software, the height, one used in the feet, the other one used in the meters, and the entire effort gone. Going forward, the Mars rover, the files froze, the software stopped responding, but they had become intelligent. So what they did was, they could remotely shut down the software, restart the software, and it got working. So that was the learning from the one thing, that if at all you are doing something on the software, and I'm not saying, I'm just giving an example, the software is that complex. You can imagine the plethora of technology which Anupam has mentioned, whether it's EW or the jammer or the your laser technologies, or everything that goes on satellite is so critical that it's a lot of work. It is not that it happens overnight. And if you see today, US is where today it is. It's the foresight which they had 50 years back. And they have developed it so gradually in such a systematic manner that we need to take certain very strong steps today. And I think DRDO is trying to do its bit with the help of various forward-looking schemes, where definitely everything cannot be done in-house, and industry and academia both have to pitch in. So I think I will only bring out that TDF, which is a very good scheme launched by DRDO, has been now increased to 50 crores. Earlier it was 10 crores. It has been brought to 50 crores. And here the advantage is the DRDO team has an ownership. Also the TDF scheme, which is being used by many of these industry partners, including Bellatrix or your Agnikul, I think many of the projects they have taken up. It has a hand-holding from the technologists who are there in DRDO. It has the hand-holding from the users. Many of the projects which are given under TDF, they are basically the end user, or the acceptance of necessity is given by the services. So in a way you have a three-way hand-holding, and the fourth dimension is, in a TDF project, if you require the academia, it is possible to actually engage them formally and pay them for their services to the academia to solve your algorithmic problem, your core sciences problem, and get going. So that is the kind of scheme that has been brought out, and it's a very serious affair where you are monitored, you are having the stages of review, and then comes the hand holding by the DRDO, and at places, if the requirement is there for the test facility, it is extended to the industry. Having said that, TDF, that is, so Anupam talked almost about all upstream. Coming downstream, I am talking about TDF. Below that, if there is a basic sciences required, DRDO Industry Academia Centers of Excellence at the 15 locations today. As on today, last week, we had the inauguration of the IIT Hyderabad Center, and I'm glad to announce the space technology segment, the research in space technology segment is under IIT Hyderabad, and they are going to take up a lot of research projects. And here, if the academia wants to involve an industry, they can involve for their need, for the basic sciences need. So we all know the segmentation of industry and academia will happen from basic sciences to applied sciences to the product that you are going to make. So this kind of segmented thought process is very important, because just doing something and agile launching an app, satellite is not as simple as just launching, making an app. It's much more difficult. Coming back, where we went back to the missiles and we worked very closely with ISRO also, industry also, and many of my colleagues from Hyderabad will vouch for it. Bangalore, who are working in aeronautics, will vouch for it. There are a lot of standards to be met, and industry needs to be aware of these stringent standards which are required, which make a commercial component a space grade component. It's not that always a space grade component is very, very important. It is the commercial components are converted into space component with various technologies. This is what I think most of the industry which has worked with DRDO is very well aware of these procedures, and there will be a requirement where this industry does the hand holding of the of the younger industry partners to how to make these systems space grade and collaborate with each other such that there is more work being done in a collaborative manner. So this is some of the things which are very important when you go to this thing, and I feel we have done in the TDF Centers of Excellence. In fact, we have research boards and extramural research also with us, wherein we take absolutely blue sky kind of research. And that is also one way that can be worked at for the space technologies. Coming to some of the things that, I think where the race is going on is optical resolution and the surveillance capabilities. Now, this is a race which is, happening between the countries which are launching the payloads. And how do we increase? So there is a segment which is launching the satellite, the payload segment and the sensor segment requires a special focus. I don't know how many of you get to know what is happening across the world. As part of my job at headquarters, we do it. And every day I have to listen to it that there is a Yaogan series and there is a 2 military satellites which are coming every day. Sometimes those technologies don't seem very feasible also. And let us not get caught into that misleading kind of the technologies. Because, there was a thing that, the experiment was that they had killed a satellite from a satellite to satellite thing. So eventually when we went back to the research paper which had indicated this, actually it was just a simulation and not the real thing. So these are the things we have to be doing very consciously. In fact, my take on this would be, we follow something like system analysis guidelines. So before you take up or take a decision, the alternatives are to be understood very well, to go into the deep of the technology, whether it's really feasible, if it is feasible, how it is feasible, and how do I plan to integrate in the bigger system. There is one more thing that industry will have to be holding the giants, either DRDO, ISRO or the bigger companies which are in this segment, the integration methods. We follow a very stringent integration methods which starts from the component selection to phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. Now they become a very waterfall kind of the model. But if you have to see if there is a new technology which has come up and we have to go into phase 3, how do we alter this method of validation and the kind of proving the concept directly entering into the phase 3. These are very complex phenomena of project management which I believe the things. Now you have given the same project to a center of excellence which has come up with a new technology. How do you make sure that in the next launch it goes and it doesn't wait for 5 years for the next launch? So these are the thought processes which are there, which I think each startup has to look at it. And I would suggest that some of the system analysis guidelines should be followed. Like you do a lot of market survey and market placement of the products. Similarly, the technology placement requires an equal amount of thought process, its application, its utility, and its, when do you take the call to launch it for the maximum, of course, the ROI which every industry is working on. Similarly, if you go for the, assets in space, the protection, I think he talked about how do we go about protecting the space assets, but nevertheless, it requires really a brainstorming to have an integrated plan for that. And another caution is the cyber security. So yes, we are into the way that, if we can do the safety of the space assets with respect to the cyber security of the software, also the communication using QKD or these kind of the solutions, I think this is not very far in the future, and it's a very near-term goals probably we are looking at, and that is a few more things that have to be taken up. And I think the next session also we are there. I will cover some of it in those sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ranjana. Now the floor is open for question and answer. Anybody would like to get any clarifications from Dr. Anupam or Dr. Ranjana?
Firstly, my compliments to the speakers. Fantastic. Just so clear. Dr. Anupam, you gave out absolutely what is required for the industry to develop. I don't think anyone can understand anything better than this. You gave out especially about the future, about co-orbital maneuvers. I think the smart industry would have already picked up what is required. Dr. Ranjana, you were again very clear about the TDF especially. That has always been a grey area. And you've given out the advantages of TDF, which many of the startups and private industry, they are a little foggy on that. I would recommend that there is much more outreach which possibly DRDO needs to do. Ease of doing business, one is that you have a website, fine, that's okay. But there is something more that needs to be done, because 50 crores is a good amount. Anybody who's cash starved today can look at it positively. And DRDO facilities also, if you could just tell everyone, those are also open. Very few people know that. And Dr. Subbarao, obviously you led the floor so well. My compliments to all of you. Thank you.
Yeah, please. Your name also?
Yeah, I'm Air Marshal Daljit Singh. Hello, Dr. Anupam. My query is as to, are there any specified guidelines given to, say, DRDO by the services to say that this is what is required to be operational in 2 years, in 5 years, in 10 years, so that it is important that the research gets done so that these things get fructified as per the requirement of the armed forces. So I want to know if there are any discussions on this aspect, and you have the timelines with you.
Sir,
maybe you cannot reveal everything, perhaps, maybe what is can be in open domain.
I got it. Actually, we are very closely working with DSA, which is the front end for the services, and to that extent, every 5 years what activities to be taken place have been divided, and I want to tell you, every month we are having a review to track whether we are on board or not, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. I'm Kamal Jaiswal from SI Directorate. Ma'am, we are engaged with some of the TDF projects where with the DRDO, and we are part of the boards where we are working with some of the startups. There's one particular issue which is, I'm from services, but I'm expressing the concerns of the startup. It is related to the IP. The startups are not very clear. They are getting into the TDF, but at certain stage they are realizing that the complete IP they have to transfer over to the DRDO. They are not finding this model long-term sustainable, because generally the startups, they have a vision that once they develop something, they do R&D, they develop some kind of IP, that IP pulls them for another 10, 15 years kind of a thing. But this is where some of them are getting into it, but after some time they are getting demotivated, or they have certain reservations to move ahead on that.
So, I will tell you 2-3 perspectives for this. TDF is a Government of India scheme. It is not by a society, or it directly come under the Government of India and MOD scheme it is. And there were certain concerns raised that if you have this startup, most of the startups today, they work to be taken over by a giant. And tomorrow, if the IPR resides with them, the investment that is made by the Government of India is now taken over by another one, which probably is not even an Indian company. So you have to think about this. Nevertheless, it has been put up for consideration. Let's see, the SOP is under revision. But definitely then we'll have to add clauses if the startup is taken over for certain other things. How does Government of India retains this IPR, which is for the utilization of the Government of India and MOD? That's my answer to this.
We have some youngsters also. Okay. Yeah, please. You have the mic. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm from the industry side. I'm from Sankhya Labs. I just want to know from Dr. Anupam, after the DSA passes on a recommendation for a product to be, selected or to be engaged with the industry, how long should the DRDO take for investigation into the product and inform the industry that, yes, now you can go ahead and talk about the product? What is the time frame for that?
I understood, because you are talking about reference to the IoT.
Any product,
Okay,
I am talking in general because there are a lot of industry
there.
people
I will
here.
tell you the system which is there. You see, we are encouraging any time any product is kept ready by the industry, it has to fit into the larger domain of the services. I myself, though I am not in uniform, I have to ensure that the product meets its requirement in total. So what we find is whenever a product comes, it is very lucrative. In fact, I was the first person when I went to South Africa and industry has offered one direction finder system. I rejected it because there were some flaw. My soldier life is more important than buying a product immediately. So I want to tell you that the process which we require to evaluate, it takes 3 to 4 months only.
That's all.
Yes, yes. And after that, we say, DSA, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Not more than that.
3 to 4 months, that is what
Yes,
it is.
yes, yes.
Fine, I'll talk to you on the side.
If there is an issue, please bring it to my notice. We give priority to the industry.
That's
If it
why the
works, it should
industry,
be
that's
inducted.
why as an industry person, I've asked this question.
Maybe
any
we
issues
try
there,
to
please
the
bring
tea
it to
time
my-
with him on the.
Yeah, definitely.
I think there are some youngsters here who like to. Hello. Yeah, please. In fact, I want more youngsters to come and talk more and more, because they're talking about more of opportunities for the youngsters, startups, for the companies in this country. And I want you to come up with more questions to them.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to the panel for this enlightening lecture. My name is Ameya Kelkar and I work with the Center for Land Warfare Studies. My question to the panel is, with the rise and, how should I say, usage of AI and machine learning in almost every aspect of space technologies, to what extent do you see, I'm not sure how to put this, but to what extent do you see the need for humans, and do you see whether the concept of human error in itself will be deleted, or whether will it take more precedence when it comes to building new tech? Like you said, sir, the life of the soldier is more important than the technology that you're buying. So to what extent will you trust these emerging technologies in the future, basically, and today also? Thank you.
Okay, I did not get your name, please.
Ameya Kelkar, sir.
Okay. See, I want to tell you about AI. In 1989, I did my first project on artificial intelligence, and I brought it to DRDO. Everybody told we believe in not natural intelligence, not in artificial intelligence. But today, what I was talking at that point of time, everybody believes it. Now, you talked about the application. See, when there is a satellite, you can control satellite when it is above India. When it goes somewhere else, you can just determine its position. There are a lot of things which are to be done on board satellite, so that there you cannot put a human being. Sometimes you cannot put a human being in the satellite. So for smart maneuvers, I already talked that you require something like a bodyguard satellite if you want to protect your. So there, human being cannot be involved. If it is happening, it is happening. Sometimes you will lose. But the basic challenge which is coming is, with so much of constellation, so much of data coming, zettabyte of data which comes in one day, can human being churn it from the various sources? That is where the big data analytics, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and deep learning has become very important. So there are two things: giving autonomy to the satellite if you want to have a co-orbital warfare, because operator cannot be in the loop. And the second thing is churning large amount of data on the ground so that it can be decimated to the user at a very fast rate. That's all.
Yeah. Anyway, the point is here is the technology part of it we discussed enough. The technologies are available. We can meet the requirement of military all along. There's no issues at all. Instead of that, let's look at the opportunities. Now, everybody is talking about the opportunity in particular sector, into this sector, particle, etc. You are coming up many opportunities in that. That's the reason I want youngsters, startup companies, the other industry friends to ask more questions about that. How to convert this opportunity into action? I hope that you have one or two questions. I'll appreciate that. But again, please don't discuss the technology part of it. You ask about the opportunity only, okay?
Yes. Good morning, sir. Yeah. I would like to thank the August gathering. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Dasgupta. I am from the Army Aviation. I would like to thank the August gathering for enlightening us on various aspects of space technology. I have two questions, sir. First is, how is DRDO trying to engage the the young minds of India from the various engineering colleges and from the various institutes? Are they doing any steps? First question. Second question is, are there any process or thought process to engage the brains of the army or defense forces so that we sit together with the DRDO and conceptualize the plans and the future? And last question is, nuclear powered space station or space program. Are the DRDO or the Indian government is thinking of nuclear powered space technology? I know there are problems of space, of disposal of nuclear waste in space and so on and so forth. Very costly. But any thought process in this? Thank you, sir.
Okay, the first question is engaging with the youngsters. DRDO has been giving the internships in many of the fields, and each lab has been authorized with certain number of people to take the internships and train the students so they get enthused in these kind of defense related activities, and many students have taken the benefit. This includes your third year internships, which is short term, as well as the long term internships of the 6 months. And many of the students have been really happy with it. For ages we have been doing it. Second is MTech in defense technologies has already been started in almost 11 colleges / universities. But this particular defense technologies MTech is not focused on space, but like you have communication, electronics, and then some on armament and some on the Now, these are the kind of things where probably to help the space industry, a portion of, so MTech or in space engineering is probably too big a thing to do, because it'll, we don't know how much yet there is a demand for the MTech in the space kind of engineering. If it is there, well and good, but probably the capsules or the electives can be designed around the space integration and space technologies kind of thing. So that point we have taken, in fact, in one of the conferences, and we'll give it back to the designers of the courses, where the problem here is the teachers also have to be of that quality. If you introduce a course, introduce an elective, and you don't have the adequate faculty, that exercise becomes futile. So definitely we are trying to see that if we can get, because you have to arrange the faculty also for these kind of engineering, that if we can design an elective or a course around this in the MTech. So this is what we are doing for the youngsters. And definitely in our centers of excellence or all projects, the JRFs and SRFs are working under the projects. They are all youngsters. They are doing PhDs in defense technologies. Also, there is a joint program between DRDO and Ministry of Education for the PhDs in defense technologies. Now here, the PhD candidates are selected as per the procedure, but the topic is taken from the DRDO and they do a project under the co-guide of one of the project from the DRDO as well as from the academia. So this is one is the PhD in the defense technology. So space engineering can be one of these topics. Now in centers of excellence, all SRF, JRF working on various technologies, they are youngsters who are just out of their MTech or BTech. Today even the PhD is possible after the BTech. So they are doing the work with DRDO. So that is the kind of, it's a very extensive engagement with the youngsters. The second question was regarding your, the third question I will not answer, the nuclear powered satellite. Still the thought processes are to be firmed up on that. The second question was on your, okay, we have a very formal kind of an engagement, but definitely we have increased it quite a bit. Many informal discussions we have had with IDS and various counterparts in this thing, but we have a formal mechanism of engagement which we have a directorate called Interaction of Services for Business. Definitely more than business, we can increase it to technology and more on the brainstorming. And I had already given a proposal to start engaging from ground up rather at the top level. That proposal is pending. And it's already, I have thought about it and given it. Let me just work it out and make it more intense.
Thank you. In fact, I want somebody from industry. Yeah, please. Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
Very good morning, ma'am. My name is Sandeep. I actually hail from CSR. Center for Space Research from LPU. Actually, I have a doubt regarding the software part of the satellite. The major part is that as a beginner, we don't have a roadmap of how to make a operating system of the any satellite. We don't have any resources provided in internet itself. There's a very small part, but after that we don't have a roadmap or any development path where we can show the basic program to know how it works. So we need a guidance about it, and we need to, can you have the guidance?
Maybe what we do is, this question is very, very, takes long time, okay? Yeah. For you to make them understand that part. Maybe you can interact with Dr. Anupam and Ranjana later.
We can try to organize a workshop in these areas, especially for industry. Probably we will tell the stakeholders who are into this field, they can invite industry to give you a capsule workshop of, see, it's just the start. You want to know where to start from. Yes. Like something can be organized regarding this.
Maybe you can interact with her, further on that, because all your time is running off, and next session is we're waiting for that. But anyway, only one point is you're talking about how to youngsters part of it. In fact, I'm sure all of you must have read a book written by a former President of India, Igniting Minds, Young Minds. So these days, to ignite the young minds is not necessarily that the government should do anything for that part, need not do anything also on that. We have so much of communication, so much available for everybody, and they themselves do that. I just give an example. On the software side, commercial software side, in Hyderabad, from where I come from, there are training centers. Something which comes in USA, immediately, the training centers are organizing the same courses, everything here in Hyderabad. I tell you a place called Amirpet, there are hundreds of coaching centers on that. So what it means is, to ignite the young minds, one is the opportunity, the second one is also the remuneration of what they get it tomorrow. That part is more important. So, in fact, I've been working in the space for the last 30 years. In fact, I was also part of ISRO earlier, etc., all the part of it. But what ignited me to be part of it is because the space as a whole, because I was a part of that. That's why you look at most of the companies around today working for the space or defense, they are all started by professionals who worked with them earlier. Now only we find a lot of startups are coming on that. So igniting the minds when we were in the service, when what we did was something different than what it has to be today on that. Because when we got the independence, and all our seniors in the government setup, they were more ignited by the freedom struggle. So therefore, they are very dedicated. Look at the second generation. Dedication is reduced. Then what matters is the commercial approach. Look at the present generation. Today, a startup company, that's what she expressed her concern about the IP. It may be sold tomorrow to another guy. So therefore, this all opportunities, how to reduce them into actions. That part is more important on that. The hope that whatever has been presented by the various military establishments will come to a reality very soon on that. Then automatically all youngsters, instead of going and working for somebody else in USA, they come back and work here for this country on that automatically. Thank you all. We have a good session. And thank you, Ranjana. Thank you, Dr. Anupam. Thank you so much for that. And thank you for the active participation from your side too.
Thank you, Dr. Subbarao. May I request you to kindly do us the honors of presenting mementos to the esteemed speakers as a token of our appreciation and thanks. We thank Dr. Anupam Sharma. Our thanks to Dr. Ranjana N. Thank you, Dr. Rao, for presenting the mementos. That, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up the first session of Day 3 of DevSat Conference and Expo 2023. With that, it's time to take a quick break for tea, but please do remember we are joining back here in time. We're just taking a 15-minute break. We shall start the next session on time at 10:30, so don't be late. And